Right? So we have assignment operators. So we have following assignment operators, which is equal to, so which assigns a value. Assignment operator is nothing but do some calculation or get a value and assign it to a variable. Is equal to, we have plus is equal to, we have minus is equal to, right? And we have star is equal to operand and then is equal to doing some operation and then making it equal to some value, right? Same way we have modulo. So we normally have already seen this is equal to, right, which we can use to assign some value. Right? So let's see the other steps. So this is nothing but your assignment operator, where I'm assigning value 10 to variable called A. I'm assigning value 70 to variable called B. That is something which is called as assigning some value to some variable. So let's see other things now. So here, let me take int C. C, which is my integer, and let me just so let's say C is equal to, first let me make it as A. Now this is something which is my operator. I'll just print the result, or I'll just print it as value of C and right. So I'm just assigning the value of A to C. So which means C value will be assigned with 10. So which is our assignment operator. You can see C value will come. Okay. Fine. Now let's say I'm saying C plus is equal to A. Now what does it mean? Now when I say C plus is equal to A, right? So it means that we are trying to add some, whatever existing value of C is there with A, right? So let us take, so now you can see that whenever I do this, right, it says use of an unassigned local variable, right? Which means I haven't assigned any value to it. So let me assign some 90, right? So when I assign some value, then you can see the error goes off. Now what I'm doing, the initial value is 90 and I'm doing plus is equal to A. This is same as writing something like this. C is equal to C plus A. Right, both are same. What does it mean? It means C is 90 is equal to 90 plus A. A is 10. 90 plus 10 is 100. So C value will become 100. The new value of C will become 100, right? So this is same as this. So let me show you the second one first. Let me just show you this. C is equal to C plus 2. What will be the C value? Now you can see 100. Value of C is 100 because C's value was 90 and I am adding with 10. So 90 plus 10 is 100, which will be assigned as a new value to C again, which is 100. Right? Same way, let's skip this and put it as a C plus C. Now you can see the value of C is 100. Now this is a short way how you can actually do some operations, right? If you just remember these operators, right, then you can actually have you can write a program much faster. C plus A will be assigned to C. Same way, C minus is equal to A will actually, right, subtract your C, which is 90 minus A, 10, which will give you 8. Right? Same way, go for multiplication, it will multiply your 90 and 100. So 90 and 10, it will give you 90. Same way, divide this, which is C, divide by is equal to divide. Same way, do some modulo operation, right? Now you can see if you do modulo operation, 90 divided by 10, right? So this actually divides perfectly and it will give you a reminder. Right? So this is how, and these are the assignment operators which we have. And then let's see the miscellaneous one. Now we have one, apart from all these operators, right? So one operator, we can't actually specify in any of these, which is your question mark operator. So this is also called as your conditional operator. Right? Now question mark will all, or normally we say question mark and colon. So this is your conditional operator. Now where do we use conditional operator? Now this is basically used in place of if else, right? If we'll see these control statements anyways when we actually start our looping controls right now, or conditional statements right away once we are done with this, right? So in conditional statements we have something called if else, right? So that if else, because in place of that we can actually use this conditional operator to write your program in a short frame. So while writing that, I'll show you how to use a conditional operator. Right? So these are the complete set of C# operators which we normally use mostly in a real time. Right? So any questions till now in the operators in our previous class or anything, guys? Right? If there is anything, just stop me back here. Right? Now, so if everything is clear, now let's go to the next topic called control statements. Very important one. Now, what does mean by control statements? Now, whenever you write any program, whenever we write any program, right? So till now we have written a program where each and every statement will be executed, right? Each and every line of code in C# is called as a statement. Anyways, even in your C or C++, right? Each and every line of a code is called as a statement. Even in C# we call it as a statement. So here, whenever you write a program, every statement will be executed, right? Now, but you'll get some situations where you may have to skip some statement, skip few statements based on some conditions, let's say, right? So that you can actually achieve using your control statements. Two things you may want to do. First thing, you may want to skip some execution, or skip some statement from executing, or second option will be you want to run certain statements again and again, which means you may want to loop on, right, and do some execute some statements again. Right? Either of these can come. So that's the reason why our control statements are on Broadway into two things, which are conditional statements right, and the looping statements or iterative statements. Right? So these are two subdivisions we have under control statements to control the execution of your code, whatever you have written. Fine. Okay. So in our conditional statements, right? Let's see what are the conditional statements which we have, which we will use. So we have if else as one conditional statement, and other one is a switch. Now these are the two conditional statements which we have in C#, right? To skip some operation, right? Skip some operation whenever you, or skip some piece of code whenever you don't want, right? In your complete programs, which are conditional statements. And under looping statements, you have for loop, you have while loop, you have do while loop, right? So in each we'll see different things. In for you have one advanced one called for each also. So mainly this is mainly used for uh, for the collections or arrays as such for each one, right? And then you have while and do while, and once these are done, we'll see something called, in parallel. While learning each and every statement, we'll also see how to create an infinite loops, right? So each and every looping statement has got its own style to create an infinite loop. We'll see how to put that, right? So let's start with our first thing, which is a conditional statements, and we'll see how it works. So let me create a new project for control statements. So let me just say it as control statements project. Fine. So here, let's say I have to make this a startup project, because I want to, whenever I run this program or run this project, I will run this. Okay. Perfect. Now let's start with the simple program here. So let's say I'm going to take a few lines of code here, where we'll see how to use a if-else control statement, the first one. Right? So the main syntax of if-else is you have a if. You can see if is a token or a keyword or a reserved word in C#. And you have an open and close brace where we'll have to write some condition. So this is a condition. And you have an open brace, curly bracket, and a close curly bracket. This is a simple simple if condition which we write. Right? The way we use this is simple. If this condition is true, then execute something. Else, execute something else. Right? The name conveys its working model. Right? Now let's see how it works. Now let's say I'm going to take some integer and I'm taking I and value is 90, right? So this is my I. Now here I'll take a condition. A condition can be like, you can use any operator, right? Let's say I'm going to use greater than or equal to, let's say 50. This is a simple if condition which I can use. So if I value is greater than or equal to 50, then I want to do something here. So let's say I'm going to print console.writeLine of success condition. Fine. And in else case, let's say I'm going to write console.writeLine of, or instead of success condition, let me just say I is something greater than 50, right? Else, let's say all conditions fail, or condition fail. Right? I'm just taking this. Now you can see I have many statements. I have one statement where I'm running I90, and I have I greater than 50, and one statement, or else some other statement. Now here, what it is going to do is, whenever it comes up to if condition, right? Now it provides capability to skip some of data. Now you can see here, if this condition is true, then this piece of code will run, and it will actually skip your else part because it is already true. Or if this condition fails, then it will not execute this, rather it will go to the else part. That's how it works. Now let me run this and show you how it works. Let me put a console.readline to actually make it easy. So here you can see, whenever we run, right, we say I is greater than 50. Right? Now I is greater than 50, we can see because my I was 90, right, it actually, this condition passed, and this statement got executed. Now you can see here there are so many statements, and we were successful in skipping some statements. Now this statement never actually got triggered, right? So this is something which is called as a condition statement. We are creating some condition, and based on some conditions we are actually making it run. Fine. So that is your condition. So let me debug and show you this. So I've put a breakpoint here. So my I value will be 90. Now I'm checking whether it is greater than or equal to 50 or not. Yes, it is true. Then you can see it will come to the execution part of it will come internal to this condition, and you can see once this is done, it will skip out of my else. It will not go to anything. It will not go to else part. Rather, it will actually go to the next statements. Right? So this is how we normally write your if and else. Now, so for one if, you can write any number of else with a condition. This is very important. You can write any number of else with a condition, which means, let's say, in this else or before this else, I want to create one more else to check if my I value is less than, let's say, 50. Open up, right? Close it. Now again, this is possible, right? You have written some other condition where you are checking whether your I value is less than 50 or not. And in this way, I can write any number of else statements with condition. This is very important. This is like a statutory warning which we are saying. Now with conditions, you can have any number of else statements, which means I can write else with condition, any number of. But else without any condition, you can write only one else for one if. You can't write two else blocks, right, for same if condition. This is not possible. Why? Because our compiler will get confused to which else to run, right? That's the reason why we will not have two. But if you have different set of conditions, then yes, you can write any number of else statements as such. Right? So let's say I'm going to print this. So let's say I is less than 50. Let's say here I is negative. And I'm just taking something. Now here, let's say instead of actually taking this 90 directly, hard coding, let's take it from console. Enter some value. And here, let me just take it as right. I take a string value is equal to you have console.read line, right? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to assign this value, right? But as this value is a string, I'll have to convert or parse it to. But now what I'm going to do is I'm actually providing a value dynamically, right? Let me run this program. Now you can see enter some value. Let me enter some 34 and enter. Now you can see I is less than 50. Now you can see this block of code executed. Right? Enter and run it again. Now let's say I'm going to do -3. You can see again it gave I less than 50. Why? Because it will not reach I less than 0. Right? So that's the reason why it gave I less than 50, because -3 is also less than 50. Right? Now here we actually took this example because here you're checking I less than 0. So in your if conditions, you can have any number of conditions. That is your catch here. Now I can say if less than I less than 15. Now I'll see how to use your logical operator, and I'll say I should be greater than or equal to 0. Now you can see here I'm going to use some logical operator AND. Now I'm checking whether I is less than 50, and also it should be I greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0, which means if these two things are true, then my if condition will get output true, and then it will execute this. Otherwise, it will go to the next statement. Fine. So this is how you can actually use your compound conditions, like multiple conditions using the logical operators. Let me run this, and now let me give a negative value. Let me say I'm giving some -9. Now you can see I is negative. There is a typo. Don't worry about spelling. So here you say -9. So it will come to this condition, but you can see here, as I'm checking both should be true because I'm using AND operator. So that's the reason why. So one fails, the complete condition fails. Then it will go to the next case. That's how it works. See, let me debug and show you how it actually works. So here you have your debug. Oh, sorry, you have to provide some value. Let me provide some -4 and enter. Now you got your debug point. Now you have a value -4. You can see in double quotes because it's a string. When I convert it, you can see it's as an actual value -4. Now it come to this condition, right? Now this condition will fail. Now you can see as soon as this condition fails, it will immediately go to the next if or next else, right? And here you can see this condition also fails. So that's the reason why it will immediately go to this. Now as this condition will get succeed, right? Now it will go to I negative, and now you can see it will come out of this complete if loop. And now, so this is something how we can actually use if and else if with multiple, using your logical operators. Right? So this is your if else control statement, which you can actually control your data. So let's see the next one, which is switch. Why do we have switch? Anyways, for controlling a statement, we already have if else, right? Now why do we need switch? Now let me first give you an example or a disadvantage of if else, then you can understand why do we need switch. Now here you can see every statement execution is a costly one again, right? As in a single line, right? Sometimes your execution time may increase. Now you can see when I say execution time may increase, it means a lot. See, whenever I'm printing something, right, what it will do? It will actually take a string and it will write on a console window, whatever is open, right? This execution may take that much time. But here you can see here, whenever we are typecasting a string value into integer, obviously it is going to take some time, right? Which means when it is going to take some time, now you can actually see whenever I say costly, always apply this way. Execution may take some time. Whenever it is taking some time, it needs some memory or process memory to run. Whenever you are using any process or process instance, whenever you are assigning some memory to that process, which means you will be using your processor. And for running your processor, you need processor cost, right? And also you need a power, which means as your execution time increases, your power consumption increases, and your processors, number of processors. If you want to increase or optimize your processing time, you have to use multiple processors, which means you have to use additional hardwares, which means obviously it's going to be costly. Now this is how you always should map your program whenever you're writing. Now what exactly? So from power, see where we went actually. From power consumption, we are writing a simple line of code, but we went to the power consumption. Now this is how you actually should think of whenever you're writing complex things. Right? Now, why we actually came up with this is see, as I said, each and every statement will take some time. Now let's say this if condition, right, have got some 1000 conditions, if else, right? And then let's say 999th condition was correct. Then what happens? Now, just now we have seen that when this condition was correct, right, it actually went through each and every condition check which is above this else if, which means it will go through 998 conditions and then it will come to 999 condition, and if it is true, then it will skip only one condition. Whatever conditions we write after this statement will be skipped, but before everything will be executed, which means it's unnecessary. We know that some statement is true, then unnecessarily we are actually going through so many condition checks, which means we are actually consuming so much of processing time. Now that is the reason why we have got something called switch. Switch is a service which can take you to whatever value it matches. It will directly take you to that condition, run it and get out. That's how the switch works. Let's see. Let me get a new class. Switch. Let me call it as a switch class. And let me remove this static so that I can actually apply a new main in the same project with some different class. Static void main of string array. Right. So here, let's say I have int some I is equal to some 90. Or let me just copy that whatever we are consuming, right? Let me copy this part. Perfect. Now here I have some enter some value and I'm taking some value, right? Now here what I'll do, I'll write switch. So switch condition or switch syntax is like this. You can have a switch and your input is a key. It is not a condition, it's a key. And then your key will have multiple cases. I mean your switch will have multiple cases and each case will be ended with a break. Now in this way you can have multiple cases and a break. Now this is like if else. You have a if, else if and final else is in switch is nothing but your default. Default is nothing but your final else. Now this is just to compare with if. Now this is the main basic syntax or the structure of your switch. Fine. Now let's see how it actually works. Now here I have I, right? Let me just enter value I, which means I'm giving some input to switch. Now I can't, the switch always takes any key. So here what I'll do, I'll just say something like 2. Right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do something. This is a simple example, guys. Right? Just don't take it as, I'm taking even number and odd numbers by taking 2s and 1s and all. It's just to give you an example. Let's say this is even number. I'm just printing it as an even number. Right? And let me take value 1. And let me print console dot write line or number. Right? And let's say in default I'm gonna say console write line out. Let's say no match form. Fine. And then let me just write console.read key so that I can wait for some time for console to close. Now you can see this is a simple switch which we have for if with multiple cases and one default. Your default statement should always be at the end of your switch. Very important, right? Because your default is the one which will get triggered if no case matches, right? So here you can take one more case, let's say -3 something, and write something like console.writeLine value is negative. Now you can see without a break, right? If you don't give a break, your Visual Studio itself will not occur, right? So what is the importance of break? I'll explain. Right? Now you have 2, 1, -3 and default and all, right? So let me just run this program and show you how it works, and then I'll be debug how it is actually doing, right? So let me run this program, let me give 2, now you can see it's an even number, right? Let me run this again, let me give some 1, right? You can see odd number, run this, now you can see I am matching the values to actually get it back, right? So let me run and give some other number. Now you can see no match found. Anyways, so this is something which is directly matching with your requirement. Like we have a switch with a key, and whatever case matches, it goes. Now let's debug this. Let me show you by debugging it. Let me just put a debug function. So let me provide value called -3 as such. Now here you can see that -3 is after 2 cases, and then I have -3. So whenever it comes to switch, right, switch, internet to switch, all cases will be registered internet. Whenever my program execution starts, right, and whenever pointer comes to switch, it knows what are all the different cases have got. Because of certain syntax, it can register all the case things in this. And based on the matching key, you can see the compiler will directly give hold to that, which means unnecessary cases will not even touch. Rather, it will make sure that your key or compiler handling is directly given to your condition or the matching case. Now you can see here, if once you get it from here, now with this your switch is out of scope. When I say out of scope, which means it is not out of your switch, but from here the execution of statements will be again step by step. Now when you make it step by step, what will happen? If I don't have a break, now what is break? Right? Break is nothing but your break. We have one more topic in this called branching statements, or we normally call it as a branching statements. Like you have a break, you have a continue. We'll see all these stuff. But first one is break. Now break is a keyword or a branching keyword which will break from current block. Now my current block is switched. Whenever I use break, which means after execution of this, whenever it comes to break, it will come out of my switch. Now why is it is necessary to have a break? Anyways, in our previous versions of .NET, right, where even if you don't write break, it will not give you a design time error. Now while developing, while coding, you would have noticed when I removed this break, it gave me some error, right? But in older versions of .NET, it was not there. What happens if you don't write break is, it will continue to other statements too. It will feel that I have found a match, and it will run everything. It will run this statement, it will go to this statement again, it will run everything after that until it at least completes the switch or it gets a break. That's the reason why in every case you should write a break. Right? Now you can see as soon as it comes here, it will break out of my switch, and you get some. Now this is how switch works. Right? So that is important. Now you can actually choose across based upon whether to use switch or if else, or if there are multiple conditions or not, but the working model switch is in this way you can actually use. Right? So this is about switch and how it actually works internally. Right? And basically, if you provide something, see here, if I provide some value which is not matching, right, even your default is like a complete else case. Nothing matches, it will directly go to default. You see here, it will directly go to default, right? And then it will break. And then it will directly break to next. Right? So this is a switch statement or switch condition or switch control statement which we have to skip some pieces of code and execute only the matching case. And matching case the syntax should be always this: case, matching key, and then colon. It's not a semicolon, it's a colon. Right? This is your matching case. Now your switch understands only this syntax to register all the matching keys with the switch. So this is how switch works. Now, let's go to the next submod, which is looping statements. Now what does looping statements mean? Now if you want to execute certain statements or few statements again and again, right? So in that situation, you need a looping statement, right? So let's take an example of for. Let me create a new class. A class. Let me call it as loops. Let me remove the static void from switch so that I can use this stuff, right? I have a static void name. I'll take string arguments. So now here, let's say I want to run some statements again and again as well, right? So basically the syntax of for is you have a for which is a keyword, and you will have three different blocks separated by semicolon in for, and you have a open curly bracket and closed block. Now let's see what exactly are these three blocks. Now first block is for initializing a value, which means if you want to run this block, let's say 10 times, right, there should be some variable or any entity which should keep a track of how many iterations it have done. That is nothing but your initialize. Let's say I'm taking integer I is equal to 0, which means my loop is starting from 0, and how many times I want to run? I want to run till 10 times. Let me just take I as 1 first, right? And I want to run till I is less than or equal to 10. Until my condition is less than or equal to 10, my loop should run. And what is the last block? Now you can see my loop started with 1 and it is moving. Now whenever looping is happening, first loop, second loop, third loop, right, I should increase my value of I, right? First loop completed, in second loop I should make I as 2, right? Now where do I make? We have to make it in your increment or decrement block. So let me say I plus plus. Now this is your for loop syntax. You have your initialization, you have your condition to check how many times it should run, and then you have a initialize or your increment or decrement condition. Now let me just say console dot write line of loop number, and let me print the number. Now what number I can print? I can print I, because I is always incrementing. Don't worry, I'll debug and I'll show you how it is working. So you have a console dot. Now you can see this is a simple for loop which I have written, where my single statement will be executed 10 times, because I'm taking from first iteration I is equal to 1 till my I becomes 10, it will run. And where I'm making sure my I value is incrementing, I'm incrementing over here. Right? Let me just run it quickly. Now you can see here in loop number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. As soon as I value became 10, right, it will skip the. This is how it works. Let me debug and show you how it works. Now, so initially you can see I is nothing, 0. Now what I'll do, I'll assign it. Now in a complete life cycle of for loop. What is a complete life cycle of for loop? Until iterations are going on, your for loop is live. Once a loop is done, it's like it is out of for loop. That is a complete life cycle. Now in complete life cycle of for loop, your initialization will be done only once. That's it. So this part of initialization will be done at the point when your for loop first triggers, and that's it. It will never come to this, right? And your condition will be triggered always in the sense from first to last. Your condition will be executed, and your increment or decrement here will be executed from the second iteration. See how it works? This is my first iteration. It came to I. Now F10. Now my initialization is done and it went to condition. Now you can see from condition it will not go to increment. Rather it will check. Okay, I is 1, and it will check whether I is less than or equal to 10 or not. Yes, it is 2. It will come to your for loop. and execute your loop. Now initially you can see your console is blank. So whenever I run this, you can see your console will pop. Right? Let me put your console and this side by side. So this is our console, right? Now you can see here console will be blank. Now my I value is 1. You can see 1 here. Right? Now let's go. Now you can see as soon as I'm at the end of a loop, as soon as I go to the next execution part, it will immediately go to I. Why? Because before starting second iteration, I should increment my I value. Now when I do F10, you can see from increment it will directly go to condition. Now my I value became 2. Why? Because I plus plus means plus plus is a unary increment operator, if you remember. Right? So unary increment operator which will increment the value of I to 1, which is plus 1. And then it will check whether I is true or not. Yes, it is correct. Then it will come back to 1. Again it will print microsecond. Same way it will increment and it will print. You can see increment and print. The looping is continuing. 7, you have 8, you have 9. You can see it will come to this. Now your I value is 10. You can see your I value is 10. Right? Now again it will go back. For sure. Now you can see, as I said, this will run till end. Now it will go back here and it will do I plus plus. Now I will become 11. Now whenever it comes to condition here, now as I is 11, right, it will check whether condition is true or not. Now it is not true. That will come out of here. So now your console is active. Now you can see. Now this is how your for loop works. So initialization condition and increment object. Now, in this for loop, I can have some branching statements like break, continue, and all. Right? We also see something called return. Right? So two branching statements. What is break? As I said, based on some conditions or something, you can actually break your for loop. Let's say if I can use if condition now. You can see here if my I value is, now you can see in if condition, if you want to check something, you should use your relational operators, and in between your conditions you can use your logical operators, right? Like I is equal to, let's say, 5. So whenever I becomes 5, I want to break. Now when I write break, which means whenever I comes to 5, it will print till 4. Whenever I comes to 5, or when it prints 5, it will break. Break in the sense it will come out of it. Let me show you that. Now you can see here, it will come to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here I am checking if my I value is 5. Yes, it is 5, then I am saying break, which means it will come out. It came out of my for loop and then proceed. So this is nothing but a break. Now here there is a simple, advanced if you condition here. So here, if there is only one statement which you are writing for if condition, let's say, here you can see I'm actually executing only break. Then you don't need these braces. You can remove these braces and write them straight away. You can write this way. You don't need brackets. You can directly make it in a single processor, single line. Right? This is also correct. Right? This will work as is. You can see when I run this, you can see this is valid and complete. I'm checking if I is 5, then break. And this is my first branching condition. Now, let me take to the top. Before this console, now what will happen? Until my I value is less than 5, it will print. Whenever it comes to 5, it will break, which means whenever I value becomes 5, it will not print, but it will come out, right? That's a condition we are using. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, whenever it becomes 5, it will break and come out. Now, so in this condition, let's say I am saying continue. The other branching statement called continue. What does this continue means? Continue means we are actually instructing my program. So in some condition, I want to continue. Don't do anything after this statement. When I say continue from this statement, directly it will go to the next I++ and it will continue directly. It won't go to the next statement. Now you can see whenever I becomes 5, it will continue, which means 5 will not be printed. And after that, it will start printing. Let me run this. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is missing. Why 5 is missing? Because we are continuing from there. Let me show you by debug. Again, let me run this program. Oh, sorry. So let me run this program and let me put it here. Let me run F5. Oh, that's a good again. So here you can see I have I is equal to 5, but I is 1. It will go and print. Everything will go and print because I is not equal to 5. Now you can see I plus plus. My I became 5. So see here, whenever I becomes 5, if you come this to this I5, it is correct. It will go to continue. Whenever it goes to continue, which means it will directly is closing and directly it will go to increment. That's the reason why it will not exclude this. So this is how it works. And after that, from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it will continue to print. So that is how the continue works. And we have one more thing called return. Now return, if you remember in our methods, right? We said return type and all, right? Whenever you have a return type, you should always mention return and some variable. Or whatever type you are returning, you should give that type of object or variable. You can also return a method without any variable also. This is the same return, but I am not giving any return like I or 20 or anything. When I say return, which means it will directly skip everything from the method and it will come out of program. Right? Let me show you this. When I do F5, you can see console window will directly close. Why? It is not even coming till this point. Let me show you that. So here I have my console window which will run till 5. So it will run till 4 and my 5 came and it will say return. Now you can see return will directly go to end of method. It will not even touch anything, even if you have 1000 code here, right? Doesn't matter. Return will skip from current loop, skip from every loop, and it will come to end of your main method. And when it comes to main method, then that's it. The program execution is done. That is your return. Right? Now this is something which is loop or for loop. Right? Now in this for loop, let's see one stuff which is how to create an infinite for loop. We remember in our each loop we'll see what is infinite loop and all, right? So let's see here how it works. So let me put console white line or so here now let me say here. So let me copy same program. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip one of these. Let me just skip this. What will happen? My for loop will accept even if you skip any of these 3 blocks. But you should have two semicolons separating 3 different blocks. That is mandatory. But everything else works. Now what I did, my I value is 1 and I skipped my I plus plus. What does it mean? What will be my I value always? It will always be 1. And 1 is always less than 10, which means this loop will never stop. Let me run this, see what happens. See here. It will never stop. It will always run because I value will always be 1. This is one way that you can create a loop. Now, let's say I have my I plus plus, but I'll remove my condition. Right? I'll remove my condition. What does it say? Because my I value starts from 1 and it will be incrementing, but my condition I'm not checking anything, which means it will go infinite because I'm not checking anything, and obviously I don't want it to close. Now this conveys that if you want to create any infinite loop in for, you don't have to give anything. Just give 2 semicolons inside your inside the for block. That's it. And this will always go in infinite. Right? Let's say I'm defining int here because I'm going to use I, right? And let me say 0. And here I would say I plus plus so that it will increment Python. Now that we run this, now you can see what happened. Oh, we have local variable used. Let me make it as a L. That's fine. Right? You can see it will go on. Now this is our infinite. So in this way, you can actually create infinite loop out of your for loop, right? And we'll be coming across this infinite loop again in our multi-threading, right? And we go to multi-threading again. I'll show you. And this is we'll actually see how significant is our infinite loop in our multi-threading, right? This is our now. So this is our for loop. What is for each? Now for each, as I said, it is used for your arrays or for collections. Anyways, we have seen till now we have seen arrays, right? So we'll use this for each for arrays, and whenever we go to collections topic, there we'll see what is for each. Now, so let me just comment this out because otherwise it will go in loop. So whenever you are running, right, you can maybe uncomment this and try out. Now here, let me create a int or let me create something else. Let me create a string array. Let me call it as ARR is equal to, now what I can do, I can directly assign some values. Right, we have done this before. So I'll say I'll give some strings. Now this will take it as in each index, each word or each string will be saved. Let me say tree. Let me say .NET, right? NBC. So I have these words. Now here, what I have done is I've actually created my array of strings. Now, how can I loop on? Now, first thing we haven't seen looping out any array, right? Because while we were in arrays, we don't know what is a looping statement. Now here, let us see how I can use my for loop to loop and get the values of my array. Now, so here I can use my for loop. Now there is a shortcut where you can actually create a for loop directly. Press on Control KS. Control KS will give you all the snippets, code snippet option. Type on for and enter. It will give you a direct syntax of your for. Now this is same for you have many options actually. I mean, in your Control KS you can actually have any number of quick shortcuts. Control KS you can also have for each, right? So where you can actually code quickly, right? Now here you can see while I'm looping on, right? I know that my array starts from 0, 1, 2, and so on, right? And how many values do I have? Now I don't have to hard code it because I have an array property called arr.length. My length will give you the actual length of what is the size of the cell. Now here, how can I read data? This is something which we have seen. So you have console.writeLine. Now if you remember, in order to get or read any array item, right, what we have to do, we have to use a variable and the index of that array element. Now my I value is nothing but index because excuse me. Right? So my I am actually taking from 0 and then you can see it will go to 1, 2, 3 and the length of this array will give us 4, which means it will iterate from 0 to 3, which means we will be getting each and every value. So I can use I here, which is my variable, and close bracket. Right? Run this program. You can see here Apple Tree .NET and MVC. Right? We are reading this. Now this is how we can use for loop, where we are actually going to each and every index and then reading data. Now you have one more way how you can actually view this. Let me show you. So using for each, right? You don't have to go to getting a length or anything. You can read directly your elements of your array. Now it all depends on what type of array you're using. So for each loop syntax is this. So you have to mention what type of object it is. It is a string object or a string array. So let me take it as item. In what is a name of set? My name of set is ARR. Now this is your syntax. Where what I'm doing, each item in for each, you can see the name for each, which means each item in my collection, which is ARR. For each item, which is a string value in, now this item is not exactly item, you can actually have any, I can take variable, this is a variable name string. So for each item string in ARR, get the data and send me to for each. Now here I can print console.writeLine of u. Right? Because what it will do internally, it will be using this index option, let's say. If you go to first, whenever it comes to for each, for the first time, my pointer will be at Apple. And as loop goes on, the pointer automatically will move to the next and next and the next, until whatever values it will have, it will actually throw to you, and you we are actually printing. Let me run this and show you the output will be the same. I can see your Apple Tree .NET. So this is how your for each loop works. And to actually get for each syntax, again Control KS and type in for each. You can see var. Now this var is nothing but my string and item and the collection. What type of collection? This is my array, which is ARR. Now this is what I have used. Right. So this is something which is in C#, which is advanced. It is specially designed for a collection item or the entity type which saves multiple data or multiple types of data in one way. For that we can use for each. Now this is your for and for each. Right. So this is our looping statement for each which we have today. Okay, so if there are no questions, so that's it for today. We'll meet in the next class and we'll see the remaining looping statements. Okay. Bye guys.
Thank you.